Sony apparently got hacked, and they finally have responded to this. I'm going to try and put this on the screen, but while I'm trying to put it on the screen, Rich, can you talk about it real quick?
I probably can't. So
I'm sorry.
That's all I know is they got hacked, and by a ransomware group, right? So I do have like questions as to like in terms of whether or not leaks come as a result of this, whether or not it's like ethically questionable for like journalists to report on those leaks because they're ransomware as opposed to something that comes out of a court document, even if it's accidentally uploaded or something like that. So I'm going to be interested to see how that goes. But yeah, I don't know the details about what actually happened.
Well, so it says here over at Push Square that a ransomware group claims to have compromised all Sony systems. And basically they're saying, we're going to hold your data hostage. So first off, if you use Sony stuff, probably want to change your passwords and stuff like that to make sure that nobody can make purchases and things like that. And Sony has basically said, we're currently investigating the situation. We have no further comment at this time. The last time that this happened, if I remember right, it was like around Christmas time, and it was close to the launch of the PS4, if I'm remembering that correctly. And basically, you couldn't use Sony stuff for days. Am I remembering that wrong? Does anybody know?
They've been hacked multiple times in the past, pretty massively. There was like 2010 and then 2013, but I was never a big PlayStation user, so I don't remember how how impacting that was because I wasn't actively playing any PlayStation games, so I don't recall that. But I do recall how many. I distinctly remember. I think it was 2010 because I was like, everyone wants Sony to die, even Mother Nature, because it was like Sony got hacked, and then they got that gigantic earthquake that happened, that the Fukushima nuclear power plant, and like just everything that was going bad. Like it would just seem like everything was against Sony at that time. I think their stock price was down to like $10, and I was like, man, they can't catch a break for anything. That was a pretty desperate time for them.
Yeah, and Kerry says he wasn't really affected by that because he's not really a Sony guy. But one thing that Sony that did affect Kerry was this idea that we've got all these PC ports that have been coming to from PlayStation, and like we kind of joked about this in our little Discord where we were like, well, are we going to keep seeing those ports? Is that relationship going to change? Kerry, you had just said really nice things about Jim Ryan, and he was waiting.
The entire thing. Yeah, he's like, someone said something nice about it. Time to detach. Like, go off on a high note. I mean, I say that a bit tongue-in-cheek just because I know deep down that there's a lot of PlayStation faithful that disagree with a lot of the things that Jim Ryan has been doing. And I think that if you look at PlayStation's playbook as of the recent years, even with the PlayStation 4, they are following the Xbox 360's playbook. They have been going away from their Eastern roots and becoming more of a Western company. All of the big games that were big on Xbox 360 are now big on PlayStation, so Call of Duty and all the other stuff. So they've been kind of going that way that has been counter to what a lot of, I would say, the hardcore PlayStation people actually liked. And everything that they've been doing has been going further and further into generalized ways that the gaming industry has been going into, like games as a service, which are every hardcore PlayStation person is just like that. I know they're hardcore against these types of games, and they just want those gigantic cinematic single player games that PlayStation is known for. So that's a long thing that I digress to say, but I love that Sony has been embracing bringing games to PC. I am totally okay with them like letting PlayStation have first dibs, having it for a year, whatever length of time before they actually bring it out. I know that there's been like some initiative that they want to kind of have like the sequel coming out before the first version comes out for PC, which is likely to happen for like Ghost of Tsushima. So you know, that type of stuff. I'm fine with it. I've been a big fan of it. I think Jim Ryan has been influencing that direction. So yeah, if there is a backpedaling on this, that would be not the best case scenario for me.
Some people also seem to think that it could go the other way, right? That like Herman Holst gets even more. Like some people thought that he may step in when it was only announced that Jim Ryan was stepping down. Some people thought that Herman Holst may step in, but either way, some other people may feel like he's going to have a little bit more power, and it seems like he is one of the bigger voices behind these ports to PC. So is there any world where that gap closes a little bit more and we get, you know, ports even sooner?
I was always under the belief that was going to be happening regardless of anything. There was always this, they had to release it in phases so that the PlayStation faithful could take this, take that medicine a little bit, have that go down a little bit smoother. And there's always been like, it's never going to be day one. You're never going to get day one. Day one will always be PS5. And, you know, Helldivers 2 is already day one for PC. And then they're like, whoa, that's gas. That's
Helldivers.
That's games of service. That doesn't count. So there are all of these things where you see that there is slowly but surely the goalposts are moving from where things are. Yeah. I've always been of the mindset that it's getting closer and closer to day one, just because for them it's more money that they're leaving on the table, and they are a business first, and they, as much as they need to, you know, capitulate to their fans, the bottom line is that a lot of them are buying, you know, Call of Duty and FIFA, and they're not the hardcore that are most vocal.
Mm-hmm. I also don't know how much the fans like actually care, right? Like, would it actually result in people buying fewer PlayStations, for example? No. It seems like
you're just going to see like dude, on Resetera, once Jim Ryan left, there's a bunch of PlayStation people that are like, good riddance. He's been making every wrong choice. I'm glad that he's gone. There's people that are celebrating, that are PlayStation faithful. They're celebrating that he has left. Yeah.
I don't have a horse in any of these races. My my report card that I gave for Jim Ryan was basically, I feel like he's done a good job on the software side, and things on the hardware side have been, let's say, questionable, right? So like, just on the software side, if we're just talking about nice, good job. Pulled it up quickly. Just the acquisitions, if nothing else, those acquisitions, I don't agree that like Bungie does more for Sony than Activision does for Microsoft, but I think the like pound for pound, that Bungie acquisition is tremendous. I think pound for pound, the Insomniac acquisition is tremendous, and same with Nix's, right?
Dude, yeah, Insomniac is carrying PlayStation.
Right?
They are carrying those guys. So I just got a notification that my Spider-Man PlayStation 5 just got canceled, which I'm pretty bummed about right now. So I have to find out where that is. I've been waiting for a limited edition PS5 before I bought a PS5, and I knew it was going to happen. I still have my Spider-Man PS4 Pro, which I love. So once I saw that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely
get that one.
So I got it, but then it was like Italy, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I'm looking through, and it got canceled, so now I'm trying to scramble to find one. It's not a great time for me right now, so I'm trying to secure that.
Yep.
You know, I'm a simple guy when it comes to Sony. I just want those tentpole first, like the single-player games. Like that's always what I've enjoyed about PlayStation properties, all the way back from like PS3 and beyond. And then I love the PC ports. But the thing that worries me is that I think that they provide a lot of goodwill to PC gamers, in the sense that it like makes people feel good about the fact that they're not locked behind the PS4 or PS5. But I would love to see those sales numbers. Are they selling a ton as well, to the point where it's also making it worth it for Sony? And so that's what I'm worried about, is that it looks like a beautiful, wonderful gesture to PC gamers, but are they following through by buying enough to justify having more ports in the future? And that's what, as a business, that's probably what they're thinking about.
Good.
I'll say, from what I've seen, right, just the concurrent players, the really big games made a big splash. The Spider-Man, God of War, those two made a big splash. If you look at like Sackboy, you look at what was the other one recently?
Ratchet and Clank.
Ratchet and Clank, that is another one. That was disappointing to me, because
it was. Ratchet and Clank was amazing
as well.
Ratchet and Clank is fantastic on PC. It is amazing. I've been enjoying. I actually want to finish it up. I just heard the game isn't that long, so I'm even more for it. I'm like sick. I have to finish this. Yeah. I enjoyed Ratchet and Clank a bunch, and I've never been a big Ratchet and Clank fan to begin with. So yeah, I love everything that they're doing. But yeah, it's along those same lines. I think that there's not a lot of marketing that goes onto it. Their state of plays, they ignore talking about PC stuff. They always have it as like an also ran. So like when the state of play happened, I was like, okay, so we'll probably get in 24 hours a blog post about whatever game's coming out later. Turned out to be like a week or so that we found out that the Horizon, Horizon Forbidden West was coming, and Nixxes is like all they have to say, like, dude, just go on State of Play, just be like, Nixxes is porting this, and everyone's like, whoa, yeah. Like, I mean, they're just an amazing porting studio, and that was a fantastic acquisition. But yeah, you look at their numbers aren't super fantastic, but then you look at how long they were out, and also if you take a look at Horizon Zero Dawn, right? Uncharted 4. When you think about the PS4 generation as it was, a lot of those games during that time, you could literally just wait 1 year and then get the game for almost $10.
Right.
So that's what I was always doing. I was like, I'll just wait a year. I mean, I have a bunch of PS4 games that I paid $10 for. I bought Uncharted 4 for $8. So I just waited. I had a PS4 Pro, and I was like, I'll wait a year. I have a ton of games, and no rush for me. So I have a PS4 exclusive physical library over there that I bought. And then when the PS5 came out, and then they up the pricing went to $70, the discounts slowed down like crazy. So now the only thing, a year later, I'm seeing it like go for $50, and I'm like, that just feels like regular price. That feels like a 1 week discount, not a 1 year discount. So I think going along this talk, right, is that the discounts have been lessened with PS5 generation. So I think as we start seeing Ratchet and Clank is going against this thesis that I have, this theory that I have, obviously. But as we start looking at newer games that are going to be coming to PC, the lessened discount amount will mean that the paying $70 for God of War Ragnarok on PC is going to be okay. Because like, well, it's $50 on PS5 and it's $70 here. All right, no problem. I'll pick that up. But if you're looking at PS4 and it's like it's $10 in PS4 and you're want $50 on PC, that's... Come on, what are you doing? Like, it feels almost insulting to people. So there is that large price gap where it almost feels like they're just, they're double dipping in such a manner that may not be very appealing.
Yeah. So I worry about people like you, though, Fox, because, okay, so say you have a PS5 and you're like, you know what? This is going to be coming to PC, so I'm not going to buy it for the PlayStation because I'm going to wait because they don't have cross saves and all that other stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But then Sony's going to see that and be like, oh, well, this game's not very popular. No one's buying it, so we don't need to make a PC port. And then they don't. You know what I mean? So we're like shooting ourselves in the foot by waiting for that eventual PC port. And so... yeah, I feel that. Like I 100% like for Forbidden West is one of those where it's like I'm 30% into that game and now I'm like, I'm not playing it again because I'm going to play it on the PC where I have like cloud saves and stuff. And so if I hadn't have bought it already, then I probably wouldn't buy it now at all, And so it's one of those, it's rough. It's a chicken and egg kind of thing almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that we're a different group of people.
We are.
Who, like, there's 40 million PS5s out there. Those people, I would say 95% of those people are just playing on PS5. Like, they're not also playing on PC. And so those people don't really care if it comes to PC, unlike us. Like, we're like, oh, I want to be able to play it on PC. And they're just buying the games that they like. And then, so I don't know if I agree with that, Russ. I think that I don't think that like this group that watches this show or like in this weird bubble that we're in, I don't think we move the needle enough to push Sony one way or the other on whether or not they're going to port a game over. But that's a good point. I hope I'm right.
Right. Yeah, you're right. No, it's a good point. I think that, like Ragnarok or something like that, people were so excited about that story. I mean, I pre-bought it and like pre-installed it. That's how much I was excited about it. I took 3 days off from the channel to play through it. And so, yeah, there's more people, I think, on that end than the kind of scenario that I just brought up. Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm hopeful that they continue on along the same path. I mean, you took a look at Naughty Dog, also like what Insomniac's doing. All these guys are really pushing it pretty hard. Look at Ratchet and Clank; that game is beautiful to look at. And the Sony Studios, you know, I could have my feelings, whatever they are, but they do produce really amazing games that I enjoy playing, and I can wait to play them. I have a bunch to play, but I would be upset myself if sales data was indicating and that they had to make a bigger push into games as a service as a result, and we're getting stuff that is not along the stuff that we all care to play, even though we may be in the minority. So yeah, I feel that I agree with both of you guys. I don't know how it's going to happen. I think that ultimately it's a business, and they're going to try to make as much profit as possible, and how that's going to muddy the waters is going to be regardless of how any of the hardcore dictate it should go, or how loud the hardcore are loud about it on forums and stuff. So it'll be interesting to see, especially with this new CEO or whoever's going to be taking over PlayStation and the direction that they take.
Hey everybody, that was a clip from the latest episode of the Nerd Nest podcast. If you enjoyed it, you might enjoy watching the entire episode, which I've got linked down below. If it's your first time here, please subscribe. And from the Nerd Nest, I'm Bill. Stay rad, everybody.